Odom is near B'Tselem, even though on the immediate, the close level of Tselem refers to the Tselem of Odom Hatzilus, Odom Elin Hatzilus. But then Odom Elin Hatzilus is called Odom Da'asiyah, which is B'Tselem of Odom, and it's called Eilamas the Klolus, is Odom the Yitzira, and then all the way to Odom the Bria, which is Odom kadmon. And thus, all the way down to Odom the Asiyah here below, is ultimately B'Tselem of Odom kadmon.
From Odom the Bria.
Huh?
From Odom the Bria.
Odom the Bria the Klolus. Which is a phenomenal thing. Not only is Odom the Asiyah reflected of Odom Elyon because it has a spheres and so forth, that sense spheres and chochmah. Actually, it goes all the way to Machshava Hakduma, to Odom kadmon. And as always, we try to get some insight and see in Odom here below, because that is ultimately the most important aspect. What is Odom here below? How is he reflective of Machshava Hakduma, of Odom Elyon? Not Odom Elyon, Machshava Hakduma, Odom kadmon. Kadmon means, as we said, it's very difficult to actually define it, but kadmon means pristine. Pristine means that which is prior to creation, which means it is as true as the Creator Himself is mit kadmon, although He is a creation. But this creation is such that is actually reflective of the Creator Himself, because this is the machshava, this is His own machshava gduma, His own first thought, as we said.
All right. Thank you.
Where in the Odom is there that kind of a kadmos, or that kind of a presence that is kadmos, that is kadmon. Actually, the Rambam says that what's kadmon? Motzui Rishon. Motzui Rishon, the type of Motzui Rishon, I always struggle to emphasize. Motzui Rishon means a Motzui that does not have a prior source, which means this Motzui is totally self-dependent. It's not dependent on anything, really. Odom Hilamata is very much dependent. So how is he reflective of Odom kadmon, of Odom that is Motzui Rishon? So to put it very simply and straightforward, we spoke about this in the past, but now it comes to the surface. When we received the Torah at Har Sinai, our first statement was Na'aseh v'nishma. And we explained that this Naaseh v'nishma, since it's Naaseh before Nishma, which means that this Naaseh is a recognition of some kind of a truth that we do not have any substantiation of. It's not a truth that we understand, that we have a kind of a basis for, because no Nishma. This is reflective of this of this kind of odom, of this kind of presence, that it's that senses, that knows of truth without any need of proof, without any need of knowledge of some kind of a substantiation. On one hand, it says Nasa is a very low level. This low level is superior to anything else, because this low level is reflective of a sense of reality that defies understanding. On the contrary, this nasa becomes the basis for all nishma. This nasa becomes the basis of all nishma, of all understanding. Like the Rambam says, to know there is a first mission. Motzui. Let's follow this Rambam. This is the basis of what? Of chochmah. But this itself is not chochmah. This itself to know there is a motzui. Motzui is a primary knowledge. It's not based on chochmah. Not based on any wisdom. It's not based on any logical proof of any kind of process. Chochmah, this is the greatest of chochmah also, that chochmah recognizes a truth that is beyond its comprehension. This is the chochmah. Reflecting on this Indian over this long weekend in Kippur, I realized that we can bring this out quite clearly. I've explained many times that hasoga, grasping in seichel, or grasping physically, all grasp is accomplished by identifying the borders of the item that you grasp. How do you grasp a table? You can't grasp a table by grasping the table. You can grasp a table by its borders, which means that before you can grasp it, first I have to identify a finite entity, a definitive place, and then you can grasp it. The same is true in Seichel. Bina is hasoga, which means that in Bina, in order to grasp in Bina, you have to identify a definitive presence, a definitive item, in contrast to anything else, and then you can grasp it. That's how you grasp it. Chochmah, just like in the Re'iyah, it's going to the Gashmis. Re'iyah in Gashmis does not depend on the borders of the item. In the ear, you see the item directly, not by its borders, not by its limits, not by its design. Reflective of the fact that with chochmah, with re'iyah, you can see the sky. The sky has no borders. The sky has no definition, it has no definitive presence. And the truth is, everything else that you see is part of that same re'iyah. Now, I'm not going to go into this, but this re'iyah is direct, not through its borders. Which is why re'iyah brings you the truth in a completely different level than anything than touch. Touch gives you a truth about the specific item. Re'iyah gives you the truth of this item as part of the overall truth. It's a completely different sense of truth. This is is reflective. How is it like that a human being can sense and can relate to a truth that has no borders? This is because he has, internally, he is B'Tselem Eliki, he is B'Tselem of Motzei Ishi. He doesn't depend on anything. His primary knowledge is beyond discovery. Normally we say knowledge is by discovery. This is all in Bina. In chochmah there is no discovery. Like we say all the time, Chassidus explains that chochmah, how does chochmah actually reveal itself? This is already the lower level of chochmah. The revealed of chochmah. How does it come through? It comes as a spark. Boradam Avrik, a fleeting spark. What's in this fleeting spark? It is not a spark. That's why it's called a spark. Because Bina, you don't get a spark. You go by step by step until you identify the entire item. You have one border, another border, another border. A spark gives you the entire truth without any kind of process. This is where the Indian that Odom is B'Tselem. And the Rebbe explains B'Tselem means Tselem of Odom the alien, the Odom Atzil, it's 10 spheres. And then ultimately it goes all the way to, because Odom Atzilus is the Tselem of Odom the Itzira de Klolis, Odom Atzilus is Asiya de Klolis, the Itzira de Klolis, and then all the way to Bria de Klolis, which is Machshava Agdum, Odom Kadmon. Kadmon means that there's no discovery, there's no prior presence. Okay, let's look inside now. I said this is actually 8 lines from the bottom on AyinBase 9.
So in order to relate to that, we have to have that. In order to relate to that primary existence, you have to have.
You have to have the ability. You have to have the ability to relate to something. On the lower level, which we discuss all the time, the very fact that a human being can stand up straight on 2 feet. 2 feet standing up straight defies logic, defies nature, because naturally it's supposed to be supported. How do you stand on 2 feet? An animal stands on 4. A snake lies on its belly. How do you stand on 4? On 2? You stand on your own. You're not supported by anything. This is also reminiscent. This is also indicative of the Indian that Odom has a primary quality. He stands on his own without any kind of support. This is true in the Gashmi, so that's on a small level, and this is true in his thought, and this is true in his seichel.
So it's a support from his inherent quality. It comes from within, the support.
There's no support on its own truth.
So it's from its inherent quality, the support, basically, you say.
Yeah, but it's true, but I'm saying it is support without support.
Support without support. Without physical support. Yeah.
Without spiritual support.
Spiritual support.
There's no process. Like I say, chochmah is not dependent on any kind of a border, any kind of identity.
You're talking about a man versus all the animal kingdom?
Yep.
The birds?
Everything.
Birds walk on 2 feet.
In birds, there are many points to be made about birds. First of all, they walk on 2, but they are balanced. Their feet come from the middle of the body. So they're standing, they're actually balanced out. It's not like Adam who stands up erect. He stands on nothing. And there's more to be said about that. Okay, the line begins, vehinei ak. Vehinei ak, which is Nodom kadmon, nikro, he is called machshava hagduma, the pristine machshava. Why is it pristine? Lihayois, being that the lekodam bechinas tzir odom kedem loseh. That before that there is not the aspect of tzir odom before that. Above that there is no tzir odom. There is no tzir whatsoever. U'kaneda, as is known, the ag who parts of Horisha. That ag is the very first partsuf. Partsuf means complete structure. Shenizhavu me'erin soiv haposhut. That came to be from Erin Sof haposhut to Erin Sof haposhut, which is without any form of whatever. So even though this is Erin Sof haposhut, this is actually ultimately it's Erin Sof haposhut. In order to come out the gilui, it comes in this form of Adam kadmon. V'nikra machshava hagduma, and it's called machshava hagduma, the first thought, the gduma, the prior thought. Hainu machshava horishono, which is the very, it means, it's called machshava hagduma to point out that this is machshava horishono, the very first thought. Shechoshav kaviyochol ho'erin soif baru. Now the Erin Sof thought, kaviyochol.
What does kaviyochol mean?
Okay, what does kaviyochol mean? Kaviyochol means, so to speak, if it were possible to say so, if it were possible to speak in terms of machshava, Erin Sof, this is how we would describe it. But in fact, the whole principle of thought as we know it is not applicable to Erin Sof. Nevertheless, we refer to it as machshava hagduma. Let it develop. Shechoshav kaviyochol ho'erin soif baru. The Erin soif baru thought. She'ola b'machshavta yoritzoino ilahatzi v'livroi. That it arose in his thought and in his will, lahatzi v'livroi, to emanate and to create. Again, it is necessary for us. We can never understand what is this machshava hagduma and what is this rotzen. But what we do need to understand is that is not what we think of thought. Bayas thought is called a garment of the nefesh, a lavush, a garment of the nefesh, which means that any thought has a content, and the content is basically filled by midas, ava and yira, and whatever other midas are involved. Thought is initiated by the midas. As the Alter Rebbe explains thought, ultimately, thought, we always say, has letters, has oises. A person thinks with a language.
Thinks in what?
Within a language. And the point of this language is that thought is already the very last stage of expressing of the nefesh, where a complete process preceded thought until it comes to thought when he is actually considering how you should accomplish and fulfill this desire that has identified itself in his mind or in his nefesh. In other words, thought pertains, the real thought, this pertains to the execution part. It is not even identifying the rotzen itself, the will itself. It's identifying the rotzen on a practical level. That's where thought comes in.
Thought is not birthed by seichel, by chochmah. It has to go, seichel goes to midos, and that comes back to become a thought.
The principle that we think seichel is because we want to think seichel. It's not. This is not part of the seichel itself. There is something enticing us. I want to know this, which is from will into midas and so forth. And this is when the seichel goes into thought. Because what is the union of seichel going in thought? The union of seichel going in thought is that this concept that is somehow flittering, hovering in my mind, I'd like to get a hold of it. I'd like to know it. What is it? And this getting to know it is a midas to me.
Right. So that getting to know it or wanting to might be some kind of condition, but really the content of what the thought is, the content of what we're learning, is a seichel that's coming from
Yeah, but what entices it? The content means what activates it? What arouses? What brings it out? The Gemara says, for example, person should learn in a place that his heart desires. Means two things. It means also the place, the besmedrash, the place where he fits more, where he wants to learn, and also Memokim means in the place in Torah. What aspect he wants to learn, that's where he should learn. Why? Even though it's seichel, because this chayfetz, this is what what is the basis for the seichel, what gives the seichel an impetus to want to pursue and to want to know it. Okay, it's obvious that this is a very it's a very extended conversation. I want to just try to go through this. So Oirin Sof Kaviyochel thought to create. This thought was not the result of a whole process that entices to think, that bring out the thought. This thought was an initial thought. This initial thought is actually reflective of of the Rotzen Mahatzi, the will to be to Mahatzi. This will is his original will. It's not a will that was prior to that developed and enticed by some kind of a solicitation, something external. This is his own will. This is like the Motzei Rishon. And as a matter of fact, what is the reason that he wants? We have no idea. What is the reason that he want to have this will? We have no idea. This will is something reflective of what he is. So, machshava hakduma, this is the first machshava, shechoshev kaviyochel ho'irisoy bo. The reason we say kaviyochel, I mean something else, and I just want to elaborate a little more. This is not thought in the same sense as we have the idea of thought. The person thinks in thought there is a whole process. Is it this, or is it that? How do I accomplish it? Where do I? This thought is not a precarious thought. It has no precarious element at all. This is the thought reflective directly of the Rotz. And why do we call it thought? Because thought is the highest aspect of Gilo, of expression. Prior to that, there is no expression, there is no Gilo. This is Machshava Akduma, this is the highest element of Gilo from main and source.
Means that person is also his highest gili from his nefesh thought.
No, there is midas, and it's also thought is the highest gili to the external, to the outside.
What?
To the outside. I said thought is called already a garment of the nefesh. Okay, there's much to speak about this. Just want to go through this for to explain that about kaviyoch. So all of the machshavti you're saying it arose as a machshav in Rotz. L'hasi v'livrei. There was nothing compelling about it, nothing enticing about it. It arose in his thought. V'noida, it is known. This is actually a posuk. We all know this posuk. My thoughts, Hashem says, are not like your thoughts. And there are many differences. In posuk it says, and what does it conclude? What it says? And what does it say? If there is snow, rain come from the Shemayim, it is going to fulfill its mission. There's no way it's going to fail. There's no way it's going to come back. I'm not going to retract it. If it comes down, it will fall down on the earth, and it will cause it to give birth and to grow. We are alluding to a similar Ayin over here, but at a much higher level. We're talking about machshava hagduma, machshava as it is in its pristine source. And thus, from this machshava, immediately, when the machshava came, nizhava, that which is in the machshava immediately came to be. Not like normally machshava does not really create anything. Machshava requires that he should go through the next stage of dibur and ma'aseh. This machshava immediately created. Take it without mishap. Bezehu bechinas Adam Dibrio, and thus this is the aspect of Adam Dibrio, the clothes. Adam Dibrio on the highest level, in the overall level, not coming down within the creation on this different level, the initial Bria the clothes. Shekel el b'teiche kol ho'abiyah, which includes and incorporates kol ho'abiyah, the entire Atzilus Bria Yitzir, the entire structure of all the worlds. Chol mashen is hava, and everything that came to be, hakoil kolul boy. Everything is included there. As it explains more indefinitely in a broader elsewhere, and this is why it's called Odom. Okay, here we're going to stop for a moment and understand what the Rebbe is saying here. It is called Odom. This Machshava Odom is called Odom. Odom kadmon. Why Odom? Where does the term Odom come into this? This is a Machshava within Oyer Ein Sof. It is that this Machshava actually includes and contains the entire development of all the worlds and everything that eventually got created. That's what's called Odom. Just have to keep. What is the meaning that because it includes everything, that's why it's called Odom. On the simplest level, the human being here below, it's a phenomenal thing. He is only a human being. But he actually, again, to take it on a very simple and more external level, he can relate to everything that exists in the world. Like Odom Arishon was able to name every creature. Why was he able to name every creature? Because every creature has a source in him. Because the entire reality of the world is Odom is the whole world. The whole world is included, is reflected, or is a reflection actually of a Liba Shel Odom, of man, of the heart of man. That's why he's able to name all the creatures, because he was able to find in himself the significance of that creature. We have a means, so to speak, to see it and to relate to it more definitively, more directly. Starting from the Gemara, which we always quote, Odom she'ein loy bayis ein loy Odom. A man who does not have a home is not an Odom. And we explained it that this bayis does not represent simply a cozy and a comfortable place for him to sleep. This bayis is representative of his presence in the world. Odom, the presence of Odom in the world. And why Dafki Bayis? Because Odom, it was created to to affect the world. In order to affect the world, he has to have a definitive, a real presence in the world. The real presence in the world is represented by having a house, by having a home. Because as long as he is in the world, but he does not have a home, he is here and there, he is everywhere, he is not founded. His presence is not really recognized as a presence. His presence is then recognized only by his action. He says this, he does this, but not as a presence. When is his presence recognized as a presence? When he has a definitive place and he occupies a piece of the world. This is what makes him a presence in the world. He occupies a piece of the world. What's in this bias? What is a home? So we explained many times that this home is, again, it's not merely a secure and a safe place or a comfortable place, however you define it. Let's take it from scratch. When one has a home, the home starts up with 4 walls and a roof, occupies, encompassing a certain amount of space on earth. So right now we have an empty home. If this empty home, this empty area, I'm going in the other extreme so we can see the difference, were occupied by a dog, what would you project to be in this area?
In this human being.
Huh?
In this human being. Projected to be in this what?
But you heard what I said.
Home.
You can imagine where it's coming from.
In the home.
If this area was occupied by a dog, what would you project there to be in this area?
Some bones, some dirt and some bones.
Some bones.
Doghouse.
A doghouse.
Things we don't want to talk.
Because a doghouse doesn't represent anything but itself. You may have some bones, you may have some dirt, and that's about it. But if you know that this area is actually a human abode, what do you project? What do you project here?
Everything.
Right, exactly right. Absolutely everything. And if you want to go a step beyond everything, even a cat and a dog.
Fish tank.
A fish tank. Everything, the entire world fits into that little home. I'm looking at the time this one. What's behind that? If it were a question of a person's comfort, you project that to be a bed, a table, a chair. And if it's a scholar, it would have a bookcase. Why do we say that everything is there? I hope you can follow this. The principle that everything is there means that there is not any identifiable meaning to this home. This home is something which he creates from nothing. from a plain presence. Why is he created from nothing? Because the human presence has a fundamental reality, not based on any kind of activity, any kind of experience. And this home is reflective of this fundamental reality. Anything that you would imagine, you can find in this home. It's being created on the fly. It's not something which is reflective of something which is pre-existent. It's being created on the fly as he goes along. Whatever he imagines, whatever comes, oh yeah, it fits. Because this home is reflective of him, and he is the whole world. There's nothing in the world that is not him. There's nothing in the world, even if it is on the other side of the globe, it's also here because he's got the cell phone, which he can connect to everywhere in the world. As we said many times, the cell phone was invented now, but it wasn't. But the idea, the Ayin, that the human being belongs everywhere, was not invented. This came with God's creation. The whole world was put in the heart of man. And the human being, even when it was extremely dangerous, was always on the high seas. Columbus sailed across the Atlantic in 4 boats. You say, oh, 4 boats? Four Queen Elizabeths. Four little yachts by our standards. Three, right. Sorry. 3. Little yachts. I went across the Atlantic. Why do you go? This is so dangerous. I have to go across. I belong there. These boats, if it's a storm, it goes. There's no way you go. You know that the Rambam had a brother. This brother, he loved with all his life. And this brother actually supported the Rambam so that the Rambam could sit and learn. He supported the Rambam for a whole lifetime. And then this brother drowned at sea during his trips. And then the Rambam says, now, my life has changed completely. Now he has to go now. He became a doctor because otherwise he wouldn't be able to support himself. That's how he became a doctor. And he was a doctor in the Sultan's, in Egypt by whatever they call the king of Egypt. This was all because Rambam didn't seek to be a doctor. Rambam was learning Torah, but this was forced upon him because of the circumstance. So why did this Rambam go on the high seas and engage himself? Because he had a very great responsibility, because this is what he was doing. Okay. So the whole world is represented in Adam. Represented in Adam. This Ayin that Adam contains the whole world is contained in his initial creation. This is what he was created for. If you look in the Chumash, plain out there, Rebbe says, let us make Adam. Let us make Adam, in our form and in our likeness. There's an interesting thing I just want to call your attention to. Everything that was created, it mentioned there that Hashem created. Hashem said, let the vegetation come forth, let the animals come forth, let the so forth. The only place where it says, but it mentioned that the plan, the intent, is when it created Adam. Now, so nobody then say, let us make this, let us make this. Why by Adam there is this intent? It's Nasa Adam, because Adam is done. This is what the intent of the creation is reflected. The entire creation is reflected in Adam. So the Torah says this was planned. This is not an afterthought. And Adam then become Adam after he developed his skills and became, Adam was created Adam. Now, so he was given that quality. And then it says, in this plan, now so Adam it's American was saying, just to point out clearly, Adam took hold and ruled the whole world, not because he was smarter than every creature, and eventually he learned how to go supreme. This is how he was created. Now so Adam it's American. V'yirdu b'dgas hayom, and they will rule. B'dgas hayom, that's in the plan. V'yirdu b'dgas hayom v'goy v'yashamayim v'chol chayom v'esar haaretz. He will rule everything. This is what Adam is. Adam was given the godly presence in the world. This is why he includes everything. This is the meaning of Adam. Adam is not just another creature. I can't go any further because it's very well. So this is why it's called Adam, because he actually includes everything. And that's why it's called Adam kadmon, the pristine Adam. The Adam as was conceptualized in Machshava Hagduma, in the pristine thought of the creation. To translate this principle for us, which I always aim to do, in a manner that would kind of be reflective, would kind of be would be meaningful from our perspective. The world is huge. It's insane. Does that mean it's unsafe and it does not have an overall presence? It's infinite, it's open-ended. It's really open-ended in terms of all the possibilities. But all the possibilities are contained within one reality which was defined by this creator. Everything is contained within this reality. There is an overall container. This container is safe. It's borderless. But everything is contained in it. I was learning Rambam this morning. You find it everywhere, everyone, when you pay attention to it. So there is all kinds of halachas. Talk about halachas of kinyan or here, buying, selling. So there's a halacha that stopped me. There's a halacha, I remember the Gemara. So the halacha is like this. If a person purchased an item, there were two people standing, two merchants standing, whatever the circumstance. He bought from one of them. And he forgot who he bought it from. He walks over to the one, did I buy it from you? Yes, and the other one hears it, says, no, you bought it from me. Okay. So now, he's got this item. He has to pay for it. Who did he pay? Who does he pay? It's a dilemma. If we think of it from a purely worldly perspective, he bought it from someone. He owes the money to this someone. The fact that there is a thief, there's a faker, who intrudes and says, no, you bought it from me, what's the fault of that person from whom you bought it? You took it from him, you owe the money, you owe the money. Right?
Which one is the thief?
We don't know.
One of the two that says it, you bought it from me. Or the fact that there is a thief who intrudes and says, no, you bought it from me, the real seller shouldn't suffer. He made a legitimate transaction. He sold it to him, he gave him the item, and now he deserves to be paid. He has nothing to do with the next guy. The halacha is, the din is that technically, if the buyer wants, he can simply take the item, the money, and deposit it in the basin and says, here's the money for this item. Let them fight it out. Make sense to you?
Yeah.
What if you were the merchant that sold it?
Well, I would be relieved that the Beis can resolve it.
How are you going to resolve it?
They're going to have both.
What?
They're going to have both.
Both people are standing there and they're quite firm. No, you bought it from me.
Sure has it.
Yeah, they're going to have to make an oath.
You're going to have to make what?
An oath.
An oath. This guy can swear also. Who knows?
Well,
How do I know what kind of guy is?
Tell them we'll cut the bill in half, and whichever one protests, that's the one.
They cut it in half. I'm going to lose half. If it's a baby, you can cut it. But
you
if
gotta
they-
make sure to purchase a truth machine.
Truth machine, right.
Detects.
even truth machines are a lie.
lie detector.
So how are you going to resolve it? Right? You say it makes sense. It doesn't make sense from a moral perspective. Why should I suffer? Because this guy is a thief. He took a item from me.
Well,
Voluntarily, he came to me, he wants to buy that. I gave it to him.
well, the
witnesses,
seller.
Huh?
No witnesses, no proofs, no.
No, but from the beginning, the seller has something. There's something wrong with the seller because he doesn't remember, so he's responsible.
The
for
seller
it.
doesn't have to remember.
Buyer
The
doesn't.
buyer is buying.
Buyer
It's
doesn't.
the responsibility of the buyer.
Oh,
He has to
buyer.
pay. The seller doesn't have to. There are all kinds of different arguments. Okay, it sounds like a very simple logical thing, but there is a lot of confrontation. There are a lot of problems with it. So I was thinking, as I'm learning everything, I always try to understand it from a broader perspective. I was thinking that the principle behind it is this: You are selling the item, you are selling the item, whatever it is. Whatever you're doing, you're not doing it in isolation. You're not the only person in the world. You're always part of the entire reality. In the entire reality, all kinds of possibilities are there. You sold the item, you didn't get the money at the moment. It's always a risk. All kinds of risks are present in any transaction, and that's part of life. That's part of reality. My point is that the world is Odom. The world is Odom. Whatever you treat, wherever you walk, you're walking not on this street and on this, you're walking on the entire world, as we spoke many times. Explained many times. When the dog Lahavdil walks up Kingston Avenue, it walks on Kingston Avenue on this path, and that's all it knows. When a human being walks, he walks on the entire globe. Whether or not, even if he goes in a straight line. Every inch of the straight line is part of the entire world. That's in his consciousness. One more word and then we go. The principle behind that in Odom, in the human being, is by the human being everything begins with chochmah. Chochmah is that perception that has no boundaries. What makes everything real because it's part of chochmah. The street exists not because because the globe exists, because the world exists, because the sky exists. Chochmah knows no boundaries. Anything that you understand in Bina is drawn from chochmah. That's when it has a reality. Which is why everything is possible, everything is there. Because initially there are no boundaries. This is why it's called Odom. Because Kolu, everything is Kol. And this is only the beginning, so we'll continue. Okay, have a great day.
Yeah.